A nice little 64 and 33 run with the complimentary plays here on the video report. That's right, 64 and 33 after Sunday's 2-0 sweep, as I cashed in yesterday with the Blue Jays on the run line and the Texas Rangers as well. Two more run line plays for your Monday Night Baseball card coming up in just a moment. But before I move forward, I want to take a step back. Listen, over the course of the year, right, I'm going to probably have about 380 plays because most days I'm a one-play-a-day guy. I like to narrow down the card and find that one best bet, and then that's the play I'm going to hammer. I've said before, I don't celebrate the wins, nor do I lament the losses. And personally, I think to do this thing that we love called gambling, you've got to have short-term memory deficit because you've got to forget the winners yesterday or last week or last month, the same way you've got to forget the losers yesterday, last week, or last month. Can't celebrate, can't lament. When you do, you dwell on the past, you miss the next money-making opportunity that's potentially standing right there in front of you on the following day's card. Firm believer in that. However, had an interesting question come into customer service as was directed to me yesterday by a customer who happened to buy my losing play yesterday on the Saints in the first half, which was a 15-dime play at home against the Houston Texans. So let me just give you the question, and then I want to address it, okay? Mr. DeMarco, oh, please, my name's Al. I mean, what, did my father walk into the room? I would like to see if you could respond to this question on your next video report. I know you do your research, but how could the national announcers know that Drew Brees would play only one series in the game, and you base your analysis on the fact that it would play most of the first half? Just trying to figure out how it could be so different. Okay, so let's address that question. Now, first of all, a little off in his analysis in terms of my play yesterday, because I said, just like my first half play on Indianapolis on Saturday, that I don't want my money on a bunch of scrubs in the second half. I also pointed out the third preseason game historically has always been the closest thing to a real thing you're going to find with their starters generally playing the first half. A lot of coaches like to bring them back at the start of the third quarter just so the first-year players can kind of get a taste of what it's like to sit in the locker room, cool off, and then have to come back, re-energize themselves on the field. But I also pointed out that I thought one of the key factors in yesterday's game was this being the 10-year anniversary of Hurricane Katrina and how important the Saints were to that city and its rebuilding efforts. And I thought that there would be such an emotional outpouring and it would definitely lead to momentum for New Orleans. At the same time, however, I pointed out that the Saints the prior week had played a great first half against the New England Patriots, totally shut down Tom Brady defensively. 3 straight 3-and-outs for Brady, okay? And Drew Brees started fast in that game before yielding to Luke McCown, each of them, while Brees directing 2 touchdown drives, and McCown, who had really won himself the second quarterback job and the backup job to Brees with 2 strong efforts, also led a touchdown drive in that game. So knowing that, and knowing and anticipating that most of the starters would play most of the first half yesterday, I just thought New Orleans was a great play. I didn't think New Orleans was a great play for the entire game because the flip side of what happened in that New England game is that once the starters departed and the scrubs came in the second half, Jimmy Garoppolo just went crazy against that New Orleans defense. I mean, picked it apart. He had a great game in week number 2, 28 of 33 for 269 yards. And, of course, the Saints were missing all 4 of their secondary starters. So that's what I mean that I wasn't going to waste my money on scrubs in the second half. Now, the gentleman that wrote in to customer service brought up an interesting point. What did the national announcers say? You know, I spent a lot of time researching these preseason games, and I hope you've enjoyed all the information I've given you here in the video reports alone here over the past 3 weeks. I go through the New Orleans Times-Picayune, NOLA.com online. You wouldn't believe it. I think it's one of the best sites online when it comes to NFL coverage. I use it religiously, which is why if you happen to be a long-term player here at the site, you know I have so many plays involving the Saints in the regular season over the past couple of years. I thought, did I miss something? Because I knew how the rotations were supposed to go. So I looked through everything from yesterday. I looked through everything from Saturday, every columnist, every beat reporter, everything. Because the beat reporters, and having been a former reporter myself, you know, they're my eyes and ears. And they're the ones that are around the team every day. They're the ones that are going to the practices, attending the press conferences. They are doing the research. I am simply reading their stuff, gathering and compiling it, and then basing my opinions based on their research, because you can't do it yourself. But having been there in their shoes, I know what they do. And that has really been the secret to my success, gambling and handicapping over the past 20 years. Not a mention of it. Had to go back to the Friday edition of that newspaper and the Baton Rouge Advocate, which, of course, naturally being 90 minutes away, also gives extensive coverage to the Saints, to find Sean Payton after a Friday practice when they broke camp, had a interview post-camp, and he made the following comments, if you had watched the video. The plans right now are to play Luke for quite a bit. And then later he said, regarding starters, they won't see 3 quarters, get them some work, and then get into our rotation. It wasn't like, he said specifically Drew Brees was only going to play a series. He also did not say that the starters would play 1 series yesterday offensively. He did not say that the starters would play defensively the entire first half. So when I made my play yesterday, it's a combination of Drew Brees and Luke McCown. I was happy with that. And I got to be honest with you guys. If the game was played today, I'd have the exact same play. Because I liked the way the first-team offense was humming the week before with Brees. And I liked the way that offense continued to hum with Luke McCown. What I didn't know, because, listen, I'm a handicapper, I'm not a psychic, and Sean Payton did not call me yesterday morning. What I was not going to be privy to was the fact that Payton would not only pull Brees, but he'd pull every single starter on his offense except 1 guard. And that's what McCown played with the entire first half. And you know what? If I had known that in advance, I was still fine with it, because McCown and the Saints backups had played well, the second stringers so far in the preseason. Listen, the first-team defense played the entire half yesterday. You want to know why I lost that game? Yeah, did the Saints struggle in the red zone? But they really struggled defensively. They were pathetic yesterday. Rob Ryan's defense, totally rebuilt unit. They couldn't get any pressure on the quarterback, couldn't stop anybody. Texans marched up and down the field on them. Had nothing to do with Brees. It had nothing to do with Luke McCown. It had nothing to do with the offense. In reality, it was the fact that the defense was pathetic once more. We saw how many times the defense cost the Saints games yesterday or last year, and I think you're going to be in for the same story today. So, long story short, yeah, I knew most of what was going to happen here today, yesterday, going into that game, and Payton certainly tipped his hands. Also, don't forget, for big nationally televised games, the announcers meet with the coaching staff before the game to get, that's one of the things you get when you spend big dollars for the rights, so they also have a much clearer insight than even the beat writers, because obviously writers are not going to be revealing that into the newspaper. No coach wants you to do that. But when you're doing a nationally televised game or a locally televised game, there's a big difference. The league generally wants its announcers prepped. And if they're a good announcer and they have access to the coaching staff, they are going to have a little private meeting to kind of get a sense of what's going to be expected in the game. It's been happening for years that way. Let's talk about preseason. I think we've seen a seismic shift in the way the preseason games are played. I alluded to earlier that generally in the 3rd week of the preseason, that's the game that you can count on, where you're going to see your starters playing the bulk of the first half. Did you see how many times this week's games, where that was not the case? I think one situation that affects the mindset of the coaches is that there's that phobia of players getting injured, which I've never understood. Listen, gambling on a game is one thing. Now you're going to tell me that, oh my God, that player has a better chance of getting hurt in the preseason than he does in week number 1, week number 4, or week number 17? He has a better chance of getting hurt in a preseason game than he does during OTAs or during preseason scrimmages, preseason practices? I don't get it. When did they suddenly become psychics? And is it any more devastating to lose a player in the 2nd week of the preseason than the 2nd week of the regular season? I beg to differ. I think it's better off if you find out you lose them in the 2nd week of the preseason, because you can start mapping your strategy in advance, rather than he gets hurt on a Sunday and, oh, FYI, you've got 6 days to come up with plan B. So strange. And then you see So many coaches here doing what Sean Payton did. Hey, Drew Brees, he was 8 of 10 the week before in a couple of series. We're just going to let him play one series. We take off week number 4, which has always been the case. And then these guys are going to come out and they're going to be sharp at the beginning of the season. I guarantee you, because it happens every single year, sometime in the 3rd or 4th week of September, you'll hear a quarterback, an offensive coordinator, a head coach whining and complaining and bemoaning the fact that his offense just isn't clicking. Well, damn it, maybe you should have played him more in the preseason, huh? Maybe, practice is not games. You hear every single coach and player tell you that. Practice not like games, right? Not the same game conditions. But by the mindset of the coaches, we don't play them in the real games because they'll be fine-tuned by just practice. I don't get it. Now, I think the seismic shift is this. I really believe that week 1 and week 2 action is actually easier to win than week number 3, simply because you do not have coaches staying tried and true to everything that has been happening in the past, wherein the starters always played so much in week number 3. I just think in weeks 1 and 2, if you do your research, you know the player rotations, and you know how those second and third string quarterbacks particularly are going to be in the playing rotation, and you have an idea of what to expect from their level of play. I think actually week number 1 and week number 2 games overall might be easier to handicap and easier to win. And I think that the more that you use first half plays in the preseason, the better. So, wrapping up the preseason discussion. Hey, listen, I won 4 out of 6 plays in the preseason. I'm overjoyed. I had to put a hell of a lot of work into winning 4 of those 6 plays, but hey, I won 4 out of 6. I turned a profit. I walk away. We kick off the college football season on Saturday. So sorry to take so long, but listen, I get a lot of questions through customer service. I get a handful. I answer every now and then because I just don't have enough time to do it all. But I thought it was an interesting question. I thought it was a very fair question. It's not like the guy was saying, hey, Al, you SOB, you lost the game yesterday. No, I think it was an absolutely intelligent question, one that certainly deserved the answer. So I hope I answered it for you and also gave you my thoughts on preseason. Now, listen, today, the big play, that's a half-price play of the day, Brad Wilton. Since he joined this site, prior to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, perfect 4-0 sweep with 150 dime plays. 100 dime plays were his normal top-rated selections. 2 last summer, 2 just last month or in the past month. Won them both. You got them both for half price. He has the 5th ever 150 dime play of his career going today. It's the half-price play of the day using coupon code 150 dimes, 150 DIMES, 150 DIMES. By the way, he is, I'm just looking at the website. I butchered what I put on here, but the note should be that he is 13-2, I believe it is, with 100 dime plays or higher over the past month, and you've gotten them all at a huge discount from the guy who has made $10 bettors a little over $14,000 in the past 57 days. So half-price play of the day, coupon code 150 DIMES. Now, Steve Buden's New York crew. After 5 straight winners last week, Monday through Saturday, they lost their first ever 150 dime play yesterday. Lost it wrong side of the Giants-Cardinals game. But here's the deal. They had 6 plays since last Monday. They won 5 of them. All 6 selections you got for at least half price off. And at the end of the day, they went 5-1 with those major wager releases, and $10 bettors won over $2,700. Today, they have their 4th ever 100 dime baseball play, 3-0 with them last week. The 4th one, you save $65 using coupon code NYC100. NYC100. All the other coupons, blah, 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 blah. Over on the homepage, I'm tired of talking about it. Let's get to the free picks, which I care about more today. I have 2 run line selections. Can't talk today, but I do have 2 run line selections going for today's card. The first one I'm going to take is going to be kind of obvious, the New York Mets. The second one is going to be even more obvious, and I'll get to that in a second. But listen, I'm going to go with the New York Mets, who, of course, swept the season, a series at Philadelphia last week, a 4-0 sweep. I'm going to come right back with them today. But Bartolo Colon, they're like even money at home against the Phillies, who they beat like a drum last week. 16-7, 6-5, 9-4, 9-5. Those were the final scores of those 4 games. Mets smacked 13 homers in the series, 8 of them in one memorable game. You got a team in Philadelphia that's 22 games under 500 on the road this season. You have a team in the Mets who are 20 games over 500 at home this season, despite losing 2 out of 3, surprisingly, to the Red Sox this weekend. Mets this season 12-1 against the Phillies, including 6-0 at home. I'm going to go with Colon, who, even though he pitched and suffered a loss with 1 inning of relief work the other day to give a little rest to a overworked Mets bullpen, that was his normal day to throw. 5 days ago in that 9-4 win, he had 7 shutout innings and gave up just 5 hits for a guy who had been awful for the previous 6-7 weeks. And he's 6-1 since donning a Mets uniform 2 years ago. 6-1 going against Philadelphia. So Mets, the one play. The other play is even more obvious. Until the Toronto Blue Jays stop scoring runs, why not play them on the damn run line? I used them yesterday. I'm going to come right back with them today. David Price on the hill. He is 9-1 lifetime with a 2.04 earned run average in 12 career starts against the Cleveland Indians. He 2-0 with a 0.42 earned run average in 3 starts against the Tribe this season while he was wearing a Detroit Tigers uniform. And here's something else for you. At the Rogers Center in Toronto, pitching for the Tigers, pitching for the Rays, pitching twice here so far. This is his 3rd home start for the Blue Jays. He is 8-0 lifetime with a 3.5 earned run average. And since joining the Blue Jays in 5 starts, 4-0 with a 1.98 ERA. Now, Danny Salazar is going for the Indians. He missed his scheduled start on Friday because he came down with some type of virus last Tuesday, lost some pounds, was weak. Did throw a bullpen session. They're bringing him back here tonight. Yes, the extra rest, but must have been pretty sick. If you're losing some weight, you're sick, you missed your scheduled start, you got to wonder what he's going to give them today. He was on a nice little roll. In a 4-start span, he had gone 3-0 with a sub-1 earned run average. And then in his last start, August 22nd, which was 2 Saturdays ago at New York, in the Bronx, the Yankees hit him hard, 5 runs in 4 2/3 innings. So again, I'm going to go with the Toronto Blue Jays, who, all they did against the Tigers in that sweep, they put 29 runs on the board and they banged out 38 hits. So Toronto and the New York Mets, pretty much 2 even money teams on the run line. Those are your complimentary plays today. I wish you well, guys, and we'll do this one more time again tomorrow.